My name is Bill Vertine. I work for Skype for Business, aka Link. Every time I say the word Link, I'm going to owe $1, I've been told, so it's going to be hard not to, because I've worked in the Link division for 7 years and now in the Skype for Business division for approximately the 1 year that we've been renaming it. I'm specifically in charge of voice for Skype for Business. There's a lot of pieces to that, as you can imagine. It goes all the way from the feature set overall for the on-prem product, the product in the cloud, as well as the Skype in and out service for the consumer service. So actually, in the consumer part of our business, I'm responsible for the telephony stuff already. So it was a great weekend for those of you who happened to get here early. It was a tremendously good weekend, but sadly I think I've brought the Seattle weather with me, so I apologize for that. but this is my hometown, and it was really great to be back and come and kind of enjoy the city. So how many people were here last, not here specifically, but at the Link conference in Las Vegas? A lot of you. Yeah, that's good. So if you remember, Gurdeep Singh Paul, who's the head of our division, came out and made a promise that we were finally going to do PSTN in the cloud. And it's one of those topics we've been talking about for a long, long time, and we've had some false starts and promises that didn't get kept. But I can assure you, we are shipping it. It's my job to ship it. I have over 100 people working on it. And so it's well underway. Matter of fact, at the moment, we're able to make and take calls. About half of my team is currently already switched over to it, so it's actually functional. And the purpose of today's talk is I will walk you through the various details and how we're doing it and what you're going to get. So there's 3 topics in general that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the networking connection to the cloud. In this case, I'm going to talk about ExpressRoute for Office 365. We're going to talk about the cloud PSTN conferencing service that we're going to be offering, and we'll be talking about the cloud voice. One of the interesting things about telephony is, it's over a 100-year-old scenario. So it's always amazing, first of all, I get this many people to show up to talk about a 100-year-old scenario. But I often joke, but it's not too far from the truth, that it's easier to sell weapons than it is to sell voice. There's less paperwork selling weapons. that there are 2,000 taxation bodies in the United States alone. 2,000. Multiple federal, state, county, township, village, water district, school boards, who knows, right? And depending on where you call from and where you call to, there's different taxes owed to everybody. So it's a regulatory nightmare. Actually, the technical part of doing it is actually not as difficult as you might think, although to do it at scale and reliably is always difficult. But it's really the taxation and the regulatory and all the paperwork really that is the hardest part of doing this. And overall, as we roll out through the countries, what's largely going to determine the countries we go to and when we go to them is how easy it is to get the regulatory stuff done. Some countries, it's almost near impossible. Some countries, it's relatively easy. So as we roll out through various markets, you may see a kind of counterintuitive rollout plan, but it's usually driven by things that you really just can't see. So there are 3 things that are important in getting a cloud service of any kind of work. One is the enterprise network. That's the network that many of you folks are responsible for. The other is the interconnect, and I'll talk about that here in this section. And then there's the cloud itself, which is what we are responsible for and we own. So of these things, there's really only one thing that we can directly control, meaning Microsoft. And that is from the edge of our cloud into all the servers and services that we have. The interconnect is something you have to obtain from a third-party carrier. We do not provide networking services directly. And obviously, you're responsible for your own network. So let's talk about our cloud. We've been working on PSTN in our global cloud for about 9 months on the networking part of it alone. We had to go through and basically re-engineer a large part of how we move data around our global network. We had to do so because voice is really the first largely deployed bidirectional real-time service that we're going to be deploying in our cloud. So stuff like Bing and Office 365 and some of the media services that Azure offers, and Azure itself, and Xbox Live, and all these things that Microsoft does through our global network do not really have the data real-time aspects that we have to worry about. So we've been working on this for a long time. There we go. So we have, it says here we're one of the 3 largest, we're actually the 2nd largest cloud in the world. It's no surprise Google's the first, you know, that they have a very large network, but we're actually catching up quite quickly. We have 1 million servers in our cloud. Think about that. That is like stunning. It's almost hard to wrap my head around, and that's today, right? So as we roll out Skype for Business online and the voice stuff, we'll be adding even more. We have hundreds of data centers. We have 8 mega data centers, which are these like massive things that Microsoft has built, and largely this is what the map is trying to show you here. We have 50 peering agreements with major carriers at major peering points around the world, and we have 1,500 agreements for network services with various providers to transport data for us around the world. We have a lot of smaller data centers, as you can imagine, and in a lot of countries there's a lot of concern about data sovereignty, so Microsoft is well underway of making sure that we have data centers where it's required, so that when we offer the service to you folks, it'll be completely regulated as required within your country. All right, there we go. So ExpressRoute is one of the, well, it is the technology that Microsoft Azure has developed to help us terminate and automatically provision high-speed network connections into our cloud. And this is a list. It's not a complete list, but it's largely complete. This list is changing all the time because we're adding partners. But these are the people who have already hooked up to our ExpressRoute service and are able to terminate enterprise traffic directly into our cloud. So we have been developing, as I said earlier, an improvement to our network services for, like I said, 9 months. We internally we call this our media delivery network, or MDN. Internally we use that kind of slang, but it's really about optimizing the network end to end. So one of the things that we had to do is we had to turn on DSCP markings and turn on the quality of service on our global network. And you can imagine if you have a network with 1 million servers, and I think there's actually over 1 million miles of fiber connections. That's a big task. There's a lot of routers involved and a lot of work required to get that to work. But we actually have it working now, and we're able to now prioritize media traffic above non-media traffic, so that we're very confident that we're going to be able to provide under load quality real-time voice. This number's been thrown around many times during the conference over the past day or two. But we're the largest international phone provider in the world already. So a lot of people, ask us, so does Microsoft think they can do telephony? Well, 38% of all global international phone calls are ours today. And at any given moment, there's well over 50,000 calls going at any second in our global network. Now, this is not the business service. This is our Skype consumer service. But we have 180 carrier agreements today, terminating those minutes right now for international calls. So we have a pretty long history in providing a lot of telephony traffic. Now, clearly, the consumer service is a best effort service because it goes over the open internet, and that the quality for the enterprise service will be much higher. But as far as like operating services at scale like that for voice, we actually have a pretty good idea how to do it. Over time, we're going to be doing smarter endpoints, and our endpoints are going to be more cognizant of the cloud and the certain unique aspects of using the cloud to deliver voice. So we're going to be evolving our media stack to kind of anticipate some of the benefits and issues around the interconnect and the cloud service on our end. We're also going to be working with our partners like Hewlett-Packard and Nectar and others to better deploy software-defined networking features, not only within our cloud, which we're already doing right now, but also to work with you all to deploy it in your enterprise so that you're able to get a really high quality, real-time, end-to-end picture of how media is flowing through your network. So we'll talk about the interconnect here. Now there's a lot of ways you can connect to the internet, and you can connect to our cloud. And with a room full of like experts here, I'm sure there's people going to pick apart every word in here. The slide here is just really meant to summarize the fact that there's no one answer for how people connect to our cloud. There's a lot of different ways that people do it. Sometimes you go to like a co-location facility like a Equinix or Telecity or people like that, and you connect your enterprise edge to the internet there. Sometimes you go directly to, if you're a very large customer, enterprise customer, you might go directly to an internet peering site if you've got a contract with these people. And sometimes it's just a local telco. But the point is, there's a lot of different ways that things can get to our network. There we go. So in general, when you're just talking about, when you take voice out of the equation, it's not unusual for an enterprise, for example, to have an MPLS interconnect between major sites. Sometimes it's Metro Ethernet. There's a lot of ways that people connect securely and with relatively low latency between their major sites. In general, when you weren't running real-time video and voice through the cloud, you would then just go through the public internet at some point after the traffic between your sites has gone over an MPLS network. And then you would go through, eventually the traffic would go to an internet colo where our cloud edge is, and then it would go into the data center itself. So this is how you would do things normally without any worries about real-time networking. Now, when you add ExpressRoute for Office 365, what you're going to do is you're going to route your traffic two different ways, and this will all get set up by the routes that we publish to you when we interconnect the cloud to your enterprise. But the real-time media will go through through an MPLS or Metro Ethernet type connection to the cloud. That's the purple arrows at the top. And then your other traffic, as well as your remote your remote mobile roaming traffic will go through the open internet, because obviously when you have cellular data, it just goes on the internet. You can't really control where that data goes. Now, ExpressRoute is not required at this point, and I don't think we're going to require it for using our cloud voice. But you'll see like 3 or 4 times I put in here, it is strongly recommended. Because let's face it, with real-time voice, you got 300 milliseconds round trip that you have to be able to get voice between two human beings. And this is not like an arbitrary number. It's like built into our brains, like the monkey part of our brains and the brain stem. And anything more than 300 milliseconds, and you start stepping on each other. So this is not just like an arbitrary number. You really, really have to get the latency down. Also, never underestimate the ability of a poorly configured network to mess up a really good codec, right? And so, for years we used to come in and we do all these really codec optimizations. We got the most resilient codec, but in many ways all we allowed people to get sloppier, right? And eventually, the network will degrade, and no codec in the world can keep up with, a lot of data drops and stuff like that. Besides, your CEO could be doing his quarterly earnings call, and it could be like doing an American Idol vote or something like that, and the network will swamp, and the call will go bad. And so the interesting thing about things like Metro Ethernet and MPLS is you get guaranteed bandwidth and you get guaranteed latency, and there's an SLA behind it, right? So it's a really important thing for you to at least keep in mind when you start planning all this stuff. I think I've actually said most of this stuff. You're going to get the dedicated bandwidth, and it's a managed infrastructure. You control, when they set up the routes through the MPLS hops, you control directly the number of hops there are, so you know exactly how long it takes for traffic to get from one end to the other. You still have to do your capacity planning, right? You still got to know how many users you're going to have. There's recommended workloads like how many simultaneous calls would you expect for a given number of users and stuff like this. And a lot of this is going to be very, very common or very specific to your own company. Like if your company does a lot of phone work, well then that's going to be you're going to need more lines per user base. If it's a pretty rare thing, like I probably get one external call all day, right? And so personally. So in a case like that, you could oversubscribe your actual capacity quite a bit, but you still need to plan and monitor your capacity, right? And obviously that's going to go through the link that you've negotiated from your carrier partner. So it's something that you're going to need to stay on top of, and there's no way we can do it for you. You need to manage your own capacity at the enterprise. So the actual prerequisites for the express route for Office 365 will be coming very soon for deployment after the GA, which is going to be approximately June, I think is the time frame. There's a talk coming up at 5 o'clock today by a guy named Paul, who I'll point out the talk number at the end of my talk. If you guys want to know like all the nitty-gritty details about ExpressRoute and how it works, he's the guy to ask. He knows way more than me. But this is some of the high-level stuff, which is that the criteria will be up on MSDN, and you need an ExpressRoute subscription, but it's nothing else from us. You'll need to go to provider and obtain this, and we have a list of providers that are fully linked into the ExpressRoute system. And you're gonna also have to have your own kind of either VPN WAN or co-located networking. If you're not going to use ExpressRoute, you're going to need to have that set up as well. But as you see here, and I had it underlined, it's highly recommended, if that's not obvious. I don't want you calling me complaining about bad audio. You got a cheap network connection. So we're going to talk about cloud audio conferencing. This thing is just... There we go. All right. So today, for Skype for Business Online, we currently have a program called the ACP program, or the Audio Conferencing Provider program. And so the way it works today is, you can go out and do this right now. If you're in Skype for Business Online, you can sign up for ACP service. And the way it works is that we have partners, and I list 3 of them here, PGI, Intercall, and British Telecom. And there are a couple more that are in progress that I can't talk about right now. And these are global providers that have these audio conferencing services today. And most of you probably have something from some of these folks. Verizon's another one who does this type of service, but they're not yet approved for ACP. But you have to sign up for the service with them, and then sign up on Skype for Business Online admin portal and configure it to tie into the service that you've contracted. So there's really 2 different companies involved in this particular option. There's us, and then there's the partner you've selected. It is natively integrated once you get it set up, and you're able to get all the inbound dialing numbers show up on the link client when people dial into the audio bridge and all this stuff. So we have a service that bridges our part of the service to the third-party provider's part of the service. And we're always, and we've been offering this for some time now, and we continue to improve the quality, the uptime. Matter of fact, we've had a significant improvement in the quality of the service over the past year. And we're still going to keep working on this, and this is a continued part of our story moving forward. There's a couple reasons for that. First of all, we're not going to be in every country when we do our own service, which I'm going to talk about next. There's always going to be countries we're just not in, right? And it just doesn't make sense to be in for financial or even regulatory reasons. And so these people, PGI, Intercall, BT, they have global footprints. So if you need like a bridge service in Kenya, these guys are going to have it, right? Somebody's going to have it. One of these three folks is going to have it, right? So they give us a lot of breadth. Also, these people have been doing it for a long time, and many of you have contracts and are very comfortable with these people. So if you're comfortable with it and it works for you, then we'll configure it into Skype for Business Online, and it'll keep working. So we intend to continue to support this. We will, however, be offering our own native cloud phone conferencing or PSTN conferencing service. Internally, we call it CPC. It's not very creative, but that's what we call it. So if you hear me say CPC, that's our cloud PSTN conferencing service. So it initially is only, our stuff is initially only going to be interfaced into the Office 365 service. So your users to use it need to be in Office 365. Next year, we will have an option where on-premise users will be able to tie up into the cloud service and use CPC through the cloud, even if they have an on-premise deployment. But in the initial offering for the next, could be 9 months or more, actually. We're working on it right now, but it's not done. We will not be able to support on-premise users with the cloud audio conferencing service. We will be offering PSTN dial-in and dial-out. We have numbers. We can allocate phone numbers. We have a simplified sign-up because with ACP, you have to go and sign up with two different people, and you kind of have to configure the services to talk to each other. And that's just kind of, it's not impossible. It's just something you have to do. In the case of CPC, when you sign up for it, it's all integrated, and it's a single sign-up, and it's a single bill. So there's some people who will want that and will be happy with that. There's some people that may be, like I said, happy with Intercall, PGI, or British Telecom. The U.S. will be our initial market, and then we'll be rolling out in Europe and Asia over the following 12 to 24 months, depending on what country it is. I went backwards, sorry. All right. There we go. So how it works, it's slightly different between ACP and CPC, but essentially from the user point of view, you don't need to know the difference. But there are some people here who want to know how this stuff works, and so I'm opening the kimono up a bit. So from the user point of view, on the left-hand side of the diagram there, it doesn't matter whether it's CPC or ACP. They go into the cloud, and the traffic runs through the Office 365 infrastructure, and eventually goes to what we call an ACP MCU, which is where we set up the signaling for the audio conference. Now, if it's our conferencing service, then it still stays within our cloud and goes to another bank of AV MCUs that we run, which are identical actually to the ones that are in the main Office 365 offer, but they're kind of allocated in a different pool. And so, but the control logic goes over there, and then we do an audio bridge between our two MCUs within our own cloud, so nothing ever leaves the cloud. In the case of ACP, we send our signaling traffic from the ACP MCU through a secure internet connection to the third-party provider, and they set up their end of the call, and then we synchronize, state between the two bridges, and then the media flows from their service to our service and back and forth. Internally, we call this barbelling because the audio goes from two different MCUs, and we mix it. The phone caller, which is on the right, they dial either number, right? Depending if you signed up for one, obviously you dial up for the ACP. If you signed up for the other one, you dial up the CPC. So you're not going to both services. So this diagram is a little bit inaccurate, but the reality is you would go to one or the other of those yellowish clouds, and it would work pretty much the same. So this is how CPC and ACP works. As I said, the initial offering in the United States will be this fall. You'll sign up and onboard through Office 365. There'll be a simple sign up with automated provisioning that's part of this, and I'll do a short walkthrough of how people would do that right after this slide. Each tenant gets its own phone number, and as I said, we can allocate phone numbers. We also have the ability to get international phone numbers for you so that you can provide numbers in various countries. So we've signed up with a number of providers to obtain phone numbers outside the United States. You'll be able to both dial in, obviously, to this with a local United States phone number and the international numbers, but you'll also be able to dial out to people as well. So you can dial out to third-party, other people you want to bring into the conference. So that'll be part of it as well. You're going to get static conference IDs assignable to each user, so you'll be able to have a unique conference, a unique PIN code, and then you get a static conference ID for each conference you set up so that they'll be unique. It'll be totally integrated with OA and Outlook and that, much the same as Link meetings used to be, and still are, but not Skype for Business meetings. But it's totally integrated in there, and we'll go through that in the walkthrough I'll do here in a minute. And you'll also be able to anonymously join the conference as well over the PSTN. So here's the really perky people who we're going to walk through this wonderful saga. Raul is the IT admin, and Jane is a person who does a lot of meetings using voice. And Raul wants to add cloud PSTN conferencing to the service. So he goes into Office 365 to buy the admin, or to buy the license. There we go. So he goes in there and he sees, and this is all a mocked up UI. This is not, first of all, we're not charging X dollars. So it should be clear. And I'm not going to talk about pricing or specifically licensing or SKU structure here. That'll be coming out over the next few months. But the actual walkthrough of how it works will be similar to this, just no matter what the actual offer ends up being. So Raul, presses that he wants to buy this, and then he then selects and adds licenses to individual users. And I want to be clear, this is the web-based admin console. All this stuff can be done with scripts and commandlets. I mean, if you have 10,000 users, you're not going to be clicking through and assigning them one at a time. But we do have the ability, obviously, to run through the web portal and actually do this in a kind of more interactive fashion. And you may go in and maintain things this way too, onesie-twosie once you do your bulk port. But in any case, this, for the purposes of walking you through the experience, this is the web portal. Okay. So now he's assigning stuff to Jane, and he's got a number assigned to her. He's got a conference ID that's unique to her. And you're able to go in there and modify all these things. Jane is super happy. See how much she's smiling. She now can do Microsoft Cloud phone conferencing. And so she's able to now set it up so she can schedule her meetings automatically. And because apparently Jane doesn't have our latest client, it says Link. Raul is not on the ball. We'll have to have a talk with him. But in any case, she's much like you did with Link, and there'll be a Skype for Business version of that button up in Outlook. But when she clicks on that, of course, it will populate. Put all the links in, phone numbers, conference IDs, all that stuff that's uniquely configured to her. So she doesn't even need to set that up. We're able to extract that automatically from the service when the admin configures it either with the commandlets or the admin console. So now we're going to talk about PSTN, Cloud PSTN Service. So people always ask, what is it we're doing and how we're doing it? We are going to be offering in the United States this fall regulated telephony service, a regulated PSTN natively offered and sold from Microsoft. That's what we're going to be doing. You're going to be able to get phone numbers from us. We're able to port numbers in and out. We're going to be able to do all the lawful intercept that we have to do for legal compliance with law authorities. We'll be fully integrated into the taxation system. I can tell you most of the work's in the taxation. So all that stuff will be handled. We will also support, and for those of you, I don't know, how many people here were at Enterprise Connect? It's all the people up front are mostly up front. I think the eager beavers who go to things like Enterprise Connect are all sitting up front. Our corporate vice president, who's in charge of Skype for Business, Zig Serafin, gave a keynote at Enterprise Connect, and I suggest that any of you that are interested, you should go see it. It was a really good keynote because we demonstrated a lot of things. I think the videos are up online, and you can go watch it. And it not only shows, he not only talked about our PSTN stuff, but he also did a really good job overall summing up our strategic vision as well as Skype for Business, the new release that we just came out. But one of the things he talked about there was that we're going to also be supporting, by the end of this year, the ability to use the PSTN connectivity on premise. Now, so this is going to get really complicated, so I'm going to try and explain this. We'll be able to, from the cloud service, control the telephony that's on your premise. So either there's SIP trunks or an appropriate PBX interconnect. You may have to put an SBC in front of the PBX. It really depends, because not all PBXs play nice. But we have a well-defined and well-understood SIP interface that we're able to support that will talk to connectivity on premise. Now, in that case, you're not buying the PSTN service from us, because you're actually buying it from whoever you already have plumbed into your enterprise location. So in Microsoft today, we use CenturyLink. That's who provides our PSTN services. If we were to do this, we would then just use the SIP trunks we already have from CenturyLink and configure it to work with Skype for Business Online. So all the signaling and call control and all the users are fully in the cloud, but when the media flows from the endpoint to the PSTN, that media flow actually stays on premise. And there's no barbelling or hairpinning up to the cloud. It routes locally on premise. And I'll have some slides that kind of explain how that works. But there's a couple reasons. Some people would be like, why would you do this? Well, there's a couple, at least two reasons I can think of, and maybe a few more. First of all, you may have just signed a PSTN contract. And, these things usually have minimum commits in them, and there's, 5-year contract, blah, blah, blah. So we wanted to allow you to move to the cloud immediately and still use the PSTN that you've already contractually signed up for. And the other reason you might want to use your on-premise PSTN is you may not trust me. You might not. I'd like to think I'm trustworthy, but you may just say, well, I don't know, right? And for whatever reason, you don't want to do it. That's fine, right? So we obviously think that our service will be compelling and reliable, and it's everything we're working on right now. And we tie into the same PSTN backend that the big carriers tie into. But for whatever reason, either you already have a contract, you want to keep using it, you have an old PBX that's steam-powered or something like that you may want to use, and you want to tie it back and still use it for a while. That's fine. Either way will work, and you can actually configure some users to use our service and some users to use the on-prem trunking. You see, in this section of the presentation, you see me refer to this as hybrid phone or hybrid PSTN. I hate using the word hybrid because it is so overloaded, and we use it for so many different things, even amongst our own documentation and literature. So I'll try to call it on-premise PSTN connectivity, but you may see in some of these slides that that sadly I use the word hybrid. So there are three ways you could do telephony with Skype for Business. You can, on the right side, obviously, you can have a completely on-prem deployment, and you give your on-prem PSTN, and we have millions and millions of people who do this, or users who do this today. This is, I'm not going to really talk about that because I think that's the scenario that you folks already understand pretty well. But the ones on the left two, are the ones I'm going to talk about here. And there again, I used the word hybrid, didn't I? Well, I didn't say link yet, so I'm doing pretty good. But the online PSTN connectivity, as well as the pure online voice service, are the two things I am going to talk about. And in the case of the pure online one, all the way on the left, Microsoft provides the PSTN services. In the case of the on-premise PSTN connectivity, aka hybrid here, your users are hosted, as I said, in the Office 365 cloud, and the PSTN services are on-premise. You will need, though, it requires an on-premise link deployment to do this, right? There is some authentication and routing stuff that has to be done by an on-premise link deployment. Initially, this will be best suited for people who already have Link deployed online and they want to start moving their users to the cloud. Within, I would say, 18 months or so, we'll have a much more compelling and easier thing for people to do who don't have any Link deployment on premise. So we're working on that as well. So that's all coming. So there are two parts. For Cloud Voice, there are two things that are always in the cloud, no matter. And from here on, I'll be talking about Skype for Business Online. But there are two parts, whether you do the on-premise PSTN or you do the all-up in the cloud PSTN. The call control is always in the cloud. So when you make a phone call, that goes up to a link. Oh, damn it. All right. Thank you. That's $1. Anyone who's keeping count. 5? Oh, man. Skype for Business online server in the cloud, your call control goes up to that, and it does all the things that it does, and it sends messages back to the on-prem interface, which then instructs your endpoint to route its media to the appropriate PSTN connection point that's already in your network. So always, though, the call control is in the cloud. In both cases, if you have users who are using Skype for Business in the cloud, whether it's on-premise connectivity or cloud PSTN connectivity, the tenant admin is also in the cloud. So in that case, even if you're using the telephony that's on-prem, you will still administer the user as a cloud user, and it would look the same. So the cloud-based call control, which is the service that we're offering this fall, this is not a complete feature list. Obviously, having 12 features, I don't even know how many are in here, 10 features wouldn't be a very compelling list. It's actually a very large set of features. The way I would describe the feature set, and we'll be publishing the feature set in the next couple months, but it's roughly Link 2010 kind of feature mapping. As far as like the type of features we have supported, there'll be boss admin, there'll be team call and delegation. There's all the call transfer stuff. There may be a few of the more esoteric and kind of recent stuff that we may have just added, which may or may not make it into this release. But what I can tell you is that because this is a cloud service, the very interesting thing is, like, when I add stuff, you don't have to do anything. It just gets deployed to these servers that you tie into, and then just one day feature X is available, right? And so it's the difference when you deploy services on premise. When you come up with a new release from us, you've got to do updates, you got to take servers down, you got to spend all this effort pushing all these new things out to your infrastructure. But in the case of a cloud service, we do that, right? And that it happens under the covers. And I mean, we're at a point where we can, and we don't necessarily do it this way, but we can push new images to our cloud service less than a month. I mean, it's down around 2 weeks actually. So we can do that. We could push new bits to our service every couple weeks. So when we add features, it doesn't require this big like Manhattan Project thing, where we have to release everything. We can actually we can release features as they're ready. So that's the kind of point, is that we have a full feature set in the initial stuff. If your features aren't available, you should talk to your Microsoft people that you're dealing with on this stuff, and give feedback on things that are important to you, and we aggregate all that stuff up, and stuff will come out on a regular basis. This is not going to be like a once every several year release like we were in when we were doing purely on-prem stuff. Also, as it says here, we have, when I says basic 911, this is not going to have the multi-phone number 911 for Europe. So in places in Europe, and actually 911 wouldn't be the number in Europe, but in some places in Europe you have multiple emergency numbers that are defined. So that's actually coming at the very tail end of this year. So the initial offering in the fall will just have the very simple kind of US 911, which is good because we're only offering the US anyways in the fall. Again, Express Route is recommended. There'll be a test on this. I'll ask you all, is Express Route recommended? And you'll say, of course. So the tenant admin experience for the PSTN, this again is a kind of like mock-up of the web pages that we're actually working on right now. You're able to get phone numbers, and this is specifically what I'm going to show you here is what you would do when we provide the telephony. So you're able to get numbers from us, and we actually own a lot of numbers. We've bought blocks of numbers already. Also, as I said earlier, we can port phone numbers. So if you already have, obviously you don't want to probably change every phone number that people have. I would expect that you would port the numbers you have to us, and then you would allocate them either with commandlets or through the admin experience to specific users. If you need more phone numbers, we have providers that we purchase numbers for, and we maintain huge stocks of phone numbers up in databases up in Azure that we use to allocate them. But you would basically grab phone numbers here. You would then go through and you would configure groups of users. And again, you can do this with commandlets. That's how you're really going to do it for large numbers of users. But you can manually go through it and do it this way as well, where you go through and you assign phone numbers and emergency locations for each user. And then, okay, so we're done with that. Very quick admin experience. But to kind of summarize, again, that there are two options here for getting your users in the cloud with Skype for Business online telephony. One is the one that we deliver the service, and the other is when you use your existing service. So we're going to, our particular service, as I said earlier, we provide and we do all the taxation stuff. We provide the service ourselves. We're going to have support built into the offer. So when we announce the offer, we'll announce the support options for this as far as how you get the actual help when things aren't going right. We have the obligation to meet all the legal requirements. So we, as I said, would be a regulated telephony provider in the United States in this case this fall, and in the other countries that we roll this out in. And as I said earlier, we'll have pricing and SKU details coming up in the coming months. And I can tell you they're being vigorously debated and worked on right now, so it shouldn't be too much longer. So what I'd like to think the reason why you'd want to get this from us is that, first of all, we believe we're going to be cheaper and that it's going to be a very integrated and easy thing to do. You pay one bill. All the updates are delivered automatically, obviously through the cloud service, so you don't have to worry about updating an SBC on-prem or worried about the gateway software. Basically, we handle all that all the way through, and it just works. As I've said before a couple times, however you want to do it with numbers, you can bring your numbers, you can buy numbers, You don't have to have any server software on premise for this. So for the pure offering from Microsoft Cloud PSTN, you do not need any Lync servers on premise. So, and this is a very kind of puffy, I call it a puffy icon diagram. The PSTN calling part, we handle that. The yellow part on the right, we handle all that interface into the global PSTN network, and we have pools of mediation servers that are assigned to do this, and they're kind of a shared resource. So we're able to actually scale. We've kind of devolved the Lync topology, so we're able to scale the media requirements independent of the server requirements. So if telephony demand grows or shrinks, we can add it easily without necessarily having to grow the entire topology. We can grow and shrink the telephony resources directly. Again, in the on-prem or the AKA hybrid stuff, you're going to need a Skype for Business server deployed on premise. It is integrated with Office 365 in this case, but users log into 365, and as I said, the call control and all the services are delivered from the cloud, but the PSTN connectivity routes through your on-premise server. And there are standard direct SIP connectivity to gateways, SBCs, and PBXs. So in that case, when you're doing the kind of on-premise PSTN, aka hybrid, again, this is I probably should have this diagram up front, but you can see that the blue stuff shows like the control plane or the signaling messages, and control plane goes up to Office 365, and then the on-prem server talks to the existing infrastructure and then tells the two endpoints between the Skype for Business endpoint and the telephony infrastructure to talk to each other, and then the media, which in this case is mauve or whatever color that is, fuchsia. The fuchsia link there is how the media flows on-prem. And then, of course, the PSTN calls go into the PSTN cloud through your provider. So how you would actually go out and do this is you would, obviously, we want you to connect to our cloud service. You need to do a really good network evaluation, and I can't stress this enough. Go hire people to do this if you don't know how to do it really well yourself. It is money well spent. You would be amazed at how many big companies can have some really terrible networks. Largely because most traffic, whether it's Exchange or web services, websites, and even some things like SharePoint, you could have a lot of drop packets and a lot of retransmissions and a lot of that, and you'd never really know. People really just can't tell. But for various reasons, the human brain is super sensitive to audio dropouts. It is way more sensitive to audio dropouts than it is to video dropouts. Actually, in video, you can drop frames and your brain will interpolate, and you'd be surprised at how many video frames you can drop and not really notice. But I guarantee you, any more than 1 or 2 audio frames drop and your whole body kind of tenses up. You notice it immediately. So I really highly recommend that you go do this, especially if you're going to be running clients over Wi-Fi. Even at Microsoft, we have had some of the most horrific Wi-Fi problems where, as I think Gurdeep talked about yesterday, they put some of our access points behind heating ducts, and it just has to be metal, right? It's not really a good idea. And then we've also done this thing where I don't know how your particular workspace is, but we've kind of moved to an open space, open plan workspace. And because of that, it changes how the Wi-Fi works, right? Because you could see a lot more access points than you could have in the past because there's not really walls and offices in the way. And so what happens is you get too many connection and a lot more interference, right? And so you've got to actually spend a lot more time doing a site survey for Wi-Fi and making sure that your power levels are adjusted appropriately and your channel allocations are right. Otherwise, you could have a dozen endpoints and they could just all be interfering with each other and you really haven't gained a lot. So I will emphasize again and again that you really need to do a network assessment because, when calls go bad, it very much could be on your end. And so you need to at least have confidence when you call our service that your own network is really tight and is running well. You should, and we'll be publishing all the end user use cases for our PSTN service stuff, so you should review that. We'll be publishing that on TechNet. You should also understand your own contracts and interfaces. Sometimes people, it's kind of handed by a separate procurement org, and you just may not have really paid attention to when those are being renewed and what the terms of renewal are. So if you want to move to Cloud Voice, especially if you want to move to the native service we're providing, even if you were going to do it next year, you should start looking at your contracts right now and not find out that your facilities department went out and signed a 5-year contract like 6 months ago, like maybe we did. and so it happens, right? Because these people it's kind of like on auto repeat, and they just renegotiate these things. So if you really want to do this, then you need to insert yourself early to make sure you at least understand when these contracts are coming up, what the min commits are, and stuff like that. And as I said, the trial of the cloud service is actually, I have half my team, like I said, already running on all this stuff today. And over the next month, we're supposed to be up to 1,000 people inside Microsoft. And then we'll be starting our Super Tap and Tap process at the end of this month, our technology adoption program. And then we'll be rolling it into a public trial toward the end of the summer. And then there'll be full-blown GA in the fall. So I want you to do like an evaluation form and say what a really bang-up job I did, and make my mother proud. I don't know exactly how you do this. I guess there's a form you go to and do this, but I think it's super important because it allows us to know what you guys care about and make sure that we have this scoped to the right level. So there's some other relevant sessions at Ignite that you may want to go see. Specifically, my dear friend Jamie Stark, who I think is hiding somewhere in the back on the floor. But Jamie is going to be doing an overview of a 200 level, or 300 level, class of Skype for Business. And then, even more important, there's an express route detailed session that's coming up here this afternoon at 5 o'clock that Paul Andrews is doing, and you really should go see that, because I think you'll get a much better understanding of what express route does. Then on tomorrow we'll have more discussion on how you would set up for once again we use the word hybrid here, which is not entirely accurate, but choosing between server, on-premise server, or online stuff and hybrid. So Mark Sanders and Thomas Binder are going to talk about some of the considerations you should have when you make this choice, and the implications of each, and how you can migrate between them. We're also going to have Aaron and Sasa are going to talk about media quality in Skype for Business online, and so that's a super important session as well. And then there's kind of a Q&A type question and answer session that Tamor and Amr Kaleem are going to be doing. And then we'll do a deep dive on the hybrid stuff. And Cesar, I saw Cesar here. He was somewhere in the back. There he is. Cesar is going to talk about this with Ramesh and Vivek about some of the hybrid configuration stuff in a lot more detail. So this is like, join the conversation, talk to each other. You're a community. But I think we are done. So I have a lot of time allocated for questions here because I anticipated you folks were going to ask a lot of questions. If I don't have the details, I'll try and provide you direction to those who do. So I think we have microphones set up, and you folks can ask. Or you could just run for the hills. All right, so that guy over there? Okay, go ahead. It's not on over here. Okay, now it should be.
All right. Is there a minimum user requirement for O365 clients? And then can you confirm that voicemail, where that goes, does it go to Exchange Online?
Yeah, so we are able to integrate with the Exchange Online voicemail. That's part of it. Right? So that's all set up as part of it. So you don't need to worry about that if all of it's in the cloud. What was the other part of the question? Sorry?
Is there a minimum user requirement for?
No, but I mean it's a lot of work for one, right? So there's a practical limit, but there's no minimum limit. I mean, very often, depending on your enterprise agreement, you have rights to both online and on-premise anyways, and so you can. I fully expect most people are going to come in and come in with like 25, 50 users and try it and get it all shaken out on their end. And then they'll start migrating people after that. So I would not be surprised if there's a lot of hundreds of people per tenant running by the end of this year, with the following year being the major deployments for most people.
All right, thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, you said.
Oh, I good?
I'll go to him first because I think he was here first.
Okay. In terms of analog devices, like just crappy Radio Shack phones and doorbells, things like that. Like, how is that supported with voice in the cloud?
Well, it would. We would not support that right now. We don't have support for
like an ATA.
Yeah, we don't support ATAs. What I would suggest you do, right, and we do this today, is that you probably do this today with telephony gateway and ATAs that are already talking to that stuff. And most people just keep that up for the miscellaneous fax machines and the elevator phones and the emergency phones in the parking garages and stuff like that. So even at Microsoft, where we've gone completely to voice over IP, that's how we maintain those kind of legacy type devices. So we do not have an ATA program for Skype for Business Online.
And no plans to in the future, or you never know?
Well, it's hard to say no plans in the future, but I would say right now, I don't have a good idea how we're going to do it. It could very well be done through the hybrid thing that we're working on right now, and I would have to talk to my architecture folks and figure it out.
All right.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Thank you.
All right, so this guy's next, I think.
You said the cloud voice support basic 911.
Yeah.
So what does basic 911 mean?
Well, so there's more elaborate 911s or emergency calling services specifically in certain countries. Like in certain European countries, you have separate fire, police, and health numbers, so you have to configure more than one emergency number.
Police know my company location, address, or address.
You have to, you enter the address for the user when you configure the user either through the commandlet or through the admin console, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all you need to do, and then we provide the 911 stuff based off of that information. Okay. But to be clear...
Not the E911, right?
No, but... So when you're talking about when people are roaming around and moving, yeah. No, we have an address configured for basic 911.
Gotcha.
In 2016, we'll have E911 support in the United States as well as European multi-number emergency support. But the basic 911 is the legally supported and required thing that we need to do to be regulated.
And then currently Office 365 does not support the PIN authentication. So is there any way...
PIN auth for phones?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to support PIN auth for phones.
When?
As part of this.
Part of this. Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Through our great partners like Polycom, for example, who are sitting up here front smiling at me. But our phone partners are providing software. Depending whose phones you get, you have to. There's an upgrade version of that to support PIN auth in the cloud, and all those are well underway, and they'll be available toward the end of the summer. And it integrates with the PIN auth up in the cloud. So that all PIN auth works in the cloud.
Thank you.
So we'll go back here.
Any ETA on Cloud PSTN in Canada?
Cloud PSTN what?
In Canada?
Canada. I would... Well, I'm talking to a Canadian company today, if that means anything. It won't be the same as the US. So from a regulatory standpoint, it's not all that different from the United States. It's very similar. It's just a question, frankly, of market size. So it would probably come after the initial European deployment, just based on the size of some of the larger countries in Europe. But it'll be within the next 12 to 18 months. I mean, I couldn't imagine it would be longer than that, but But again, until you actually get the license in hand and you've checked all the boxes and gone through all the taxation and regulatory stuff, it's hard to predict an exact date, right? It really is. But I can tell you that there's no reason not to do it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
All right. Back here, that's all right. I go back there next.
Sure. What's your plan for call centers?
Call centers. So, yeah, RGS is the Response Group Services is the thing that's in Skype for Business today. We'll be providing a version of that in the cloud toward the end of 2016. There's a lot of complexity in actually making it work for multi-tenants and keeping it to handle the load and the isolation between the various different tenants as far as capacity allocation. Like, you don't want one person using up all the ports on the server and stuff like this. So we're actually working through it now. So we have a team, to my Canadian friend over there, we have a team in Vancouver, British Columbia, thank you, who is working on this, and that's where we're doing our RGS work for Skype for Business Online right now. And that is being worked on today, but it'll be toward the end of next year.
So when the customer's need goes past what RGS can provide, is there an integration with a third-party solution that'll continue?
You're talking about like a full-blown like Genesis call center?
Or, yeah.
So to be honest with you, I know we just announced a partnership with Genesis actually at the keynote, I believe. I'd have to go through and look exactly how they're tying into our service. I can't give you a really good answer on that because I don't understand the intricacies of it, but my guess, and this would be a guess, is that we would reuse the on-prem PSTN hybrid approach as a way to tie into a third-party standalone call center. But that's I don't want to make a solid promise to you on that until I look into it more. But you know, RGS is going to be what RGS is, which is up to I think it's 11 or 1,200 agents or whatever. There's a fair bit of capacity for a departmental level call center, which is really what RGS is designed for. So, all right.
Thank you.
So you.
Yes. Does your initial cloud offering include call admission control? And if not, when will it?
I believe it does. Yes.
It does, or
Yeah, I believe it does. Yes.
okay. Thank you.
No?
You mentioned that customers should check their PSTN carrier contracts because it could be multi-year contracts. Are you planning to offer multi-year contracts or do it month by month?
That'll be part of the SKU and the EA agreement that you guys would negotiate with us. But my assumption is, yeah, we would offer a multi-year agreement, but that's going to be part, like I said, of the package. So when we announce how we're pricing it and how we're bundling it, then you would negotiate that as part of your EA agreement.
Do you have a list of phones that you support?
Well, I think it's up on TechNet. It will be all our, what we internally call our 3-pip phones, or the phones that are made by our third-party partners.
Yep.
I believe that's Audio Codes, Polycom, Snome. There may be a couple others. Oh, I think Yealink, I think, has been announced. So I think there's at least 4 people who've done it then, and then there's what we used to call the Aries phones, or the optimized phones, I think is what it's referred to in the marketing term. And so those are also available from Hewlett-Packard, Snome, I'm losing track now, Astra, and Polycom.
Okay.
So those are all going to be supported.
Right. Thanks.
All right. I'll go to you, and then you, and then you.
Okay, sure. So you mentioned for the native all in the cloud service, PSTN connectivity coming and available I guess it's this fall.
Yeah.
How many locations in the U.S. will trunks or PSTN connections be available?
Well, initially, and this is all very fluid. I mean, that's one of the things of the cloud. It's easy for us to grow and add it. But we'll have 3 peering connections in the United States, in the Midwest, East, and West Coast. They're all cross-connected with multiple links, so that we would be able to run the PSTN traffic to any of the 3 peering points with our partners, and they're redundant links to all 3 of them. So it's a highly meshed connection, and it's made for very high reliability. And to be honest with you, the back end is all MPLS too, right? It's deterministic network connections.
Will that provide end-to-end QoS?
Yes. Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. So one of the things we're doing in the Express Route for Office 365 that you should ask Paul about if you go to a session today at 5 o'clock is that one of the enhancements we're doing to the original Express Route is we're requiring our network partners to not only not strip DSCP markings, but to respect them as well. And so that we will be able to generate QoS markings end-to-end throughout the system, not only in our network, but in the Express Route 3. I think it's 3.3. There's a version number for the current level of the spec. And so the QoS is preserved there. Now, it doesn't mean that your own network techs can't mess it up. So, you know, it's a very easy thing to get wrong. And I think over the next year, we're going to provide a more automated way for you to see whether we see the markings, right? Because we're going to provide a way to show you whether we're seeing the markings. So you can tell, for example, if either your MPLS provider is messing up and stripping them all of a sudden, or whether your own network technicians have misconfigured a router and you're stripping instead of passing markings through. So yes, the QoS markings, the goal is between ExpressRoute and our cloud to definitely carry the markings end to end, assuming, of course, your own network does.
Hi. Today, several audio providers provide some of the basic features like sub-conferencing, name record, breakout sessions. So is that something that Skype for Business is planning to provide it in the future?
For the audio conferencing service?
Yes.
Our feature set is comparable with what you would get from your major voice conferencing services like Intercall and PGI. I don't know if it's 100% compatible. I'd have to go through the complete list, but the vast majority of things that people do, yes. There may be one or two corner cases that they've carved out as kind of like a unique thing that they've done for specific people that we may not. If you want, after this, come up and talk to me and share with me specifically what you may be interested in, and I can tell you or get back to you on what feature may or may not be there. Okay?
Yeah, definitely. The other question is, again, the PSTN providers provide some moderator-assisted calls, right? The operator will be online, and it's kind of a large event. So with Skype for Business being the PSTN carrier in future, is that something that you're looking to support?
We don't have concierge support, if that's what you're asking
Yes.
for, in the initial offering, but it's something we're actually talking through right now. It's actually really, you had to have like rooms full of users, right? You know, moderators waiting to do it. So we're not going to have that in the initial offer. No.
So it's still going to be a tiered structure that we can use an external provider for those calls.
You could, yeah. The ACP providers will work just fine, like I said, and that's really the answer. If the CPC thing doesn't give you exactly what you want, but you have something you're super happy with, go ahead and use it. Right?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Oh, there's a guy in the back. I'm sorry.
Switching the discussion away from enterprise, in the open space, I'm kind of curious about the licensing entitlements. And specifically in speaking about Exchange in Office 365 gives you a hybrid server license to bring on-premise at no additional cost. In order to integrate an on-premise PBX system with the Link voice, will Office 365 subscriptions give you a corresponding on-premise Link server deployment free of charge to create that?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I'm not a SKU expert, but my minimal understanding is, and a lot depends on the EA agreement and the SKUs that you have purchased. But in a lot of cases, people have rights to both already, that you get online and on-premise.
For EA, yes, but for open, which is a step below EA.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that. And maybe if Jamie's still here, there's Jamie over there. That's a good guy to ask. He's raising his coffee cup in the corner. He understands the SKU structure a lot better than I do, sadly. So I go over here next.
In the mock-up, you had shown a static conference ID. Is that going to be?
So no, the conference IDs, we can generate unique conference IDs, and we can also assign pins that are unique to specific users as well for the organizers in our service. Yeah. What the partner services do is completely up to them. If they do or don't do that, that is really based on what they already do and what you pay them for. So, all right?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
And then you. You first.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, in your diagram for the local site instance of your designs, not the cloud-based, but the site-based, you showed the PBX in between the site server, the Skype for Business server. You showed a PBX in the middle. So for greenfield site location, what are you guys providing the SBC instance of
in the
that,
case, your greenfield, no, we're not providing any of that. So either the PBX is generically configurable enough to interoperate at the SIP level with what we have, or you're going to have to get an SBC in the middle to intermediate.
I'm just curious if your service included that.
No, we don't. So we don't offer an SBC per se, although our mediation servers have the ability to interoperate with a lot of SIP trunk devices, but it's not. No. You can talk to our dear friends at Sonus. They would be happy to talk to you, I'm sure. And then you?
Yeah. So with the RGS, are you going to develop a reporting engine? Because when you look at the third-party call center applications today, they have real-time dashboards for supervisors to monitor the queues and all that. Is this going to be available with RGS as well?
Well, I know that we're going to have, as part of Skype for Business in general, the online service, we have a significantly enhanced set of reporting stuff, which you may have seen at the keynote yesterday. So we're working with a number of companies like, let's see if I remember. I think it was Nectar, Event Zero, and Unified Squared to actually provide them interfaces to do all the enhanced reporting that they need to. We're currently talking to them about all the telephony and audio conferencing stuff. We also have all the data is already available both from the cloud side as well as the on-premise side through the quality server, the call detail records and our quality database that we maintain as part of the service. So we're going to be able to offer to these people the ability to do pretty much whatever they want as far as post-call reporting. As far as like in-call reporting, that is really something that you need to have a pretty robust SDN implementation, software-defined networking, because one of the difficulties of Link in tracking real-time call quality is that the media flows are encrypted. So you just can't, and there's a variety of ports that they can be running through. So we have an API that we've built into our product for at least, I think it's 2 or 3 years, that the SDN providers use that allows Link to tell your software-defined networking controller which media paths are us. And so that the SDN controller can then now track these specific flows as media flows and can actually report on the quality of the links. And depending on how you've set up your SDN controller, it could also mitigate some problems in the network automatically because it knows it's a media flow. So that is all part of our SDN interface that we already have in on-premise Link.
Right. So when I said real time, I didn't mean call quality and media call quality. I meant reporting of the queues and agents and idle time and stuff like that. Yeah.
That stuff, yeah. We'll have some built into the admin console. Like I said, that's what's being worked on right now up in Vancouver, in my Vancouver team.
Okay.
We will have also the interfaces to third-party products to do even better stuff. These guys really live and breathe this stuff, and we're super happy to be working with them. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
You mentioned you've worked on your network to provide end-to-end QoS and DCP marking. Are you doing something similar for video in terms of ensuring?
Yeah, we're marking both.
Okay.
So we have them marked separately. Voice is a higher priority than video because of the human perception, but they're both better than best effort. So we'll be publishing as part of our kind of TechNet stuff the exact markings that we use for each of them, but it should be the obvious ones. There's well accepted video marking numbers and audio marking numbers.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing both.
All right. Thank you.
I'll go to him and then back to you.
Do you know yet what the client version level requirements and also on-premises server version level requirements for the on-premises PSTN?
I think usually it's N-2 is kind of what we do, but I know it's at least Link 2013 clients will work. It may be even as back as far as Link 2010. I'd have to, I don't know, Cesar, can you nod or no? Do you know? 2010 should work, though. 2010 should work, shouldn't it? Yeah, so it should. So Link 2010 clients and Link 2013 clients will work, as well as Skype for Business clients.
What about
obviously.
the on-premises server component that's required? Will Link 2013 work for that, or you have to?
Oh, yes, Link 2013 definitely will.
Okay.
You know, all right. So this is the last question. Oh, I really have to do the last question because I think I'm rapidly running. All right, quick.
Sorry, similar question to my Canadian friend here, but with more restrictive countries like India and United Arab Emirates.
Oh boy,
where are you at with those, if ever?
Yeah, you had to ask about that. I was waiting for that. We're working through the India stuff right now. It's as the fact that you asked leads me to believe that you know exactly how complicated it is. Clearly, we have to do something in India, and we're working through it right now. We have a lot of multinationals that have offices in India that want to provide this as well as Indian customers natively that want to do this. And the requirements in India are somewhat reversed from a lot of other countries. Like they care more about calls within the country than outside the country. So we're working through all that stuff right now. So I don't really have a good date for you on that. I can tell you that if you were to search my inbox for the word India, you'd get a lot of hits.
Okay, so it's on the roadmap somewhere.
Oh, it is on the roadmap.
All right, thank you.
Last one.
Last one, yeah. How will you handle long-distance chargeback for multinational
that'll be
companies that you have a single tenant with people all over the world?
Yeah, so that'll be part of the offering. The offering will talk about how we bill you for international versus domestic, and we're not ready to disclose that yet. All right, thank you.